Welcome back to Reds Fusion LFC. Big updates today. From Liverpool's final stance on Alexander Isak to Arne Slot setting a huge Ronaldo and Messi-style challenge for Florian Wirtz, plus the latest on Marc Guehi. You won't want to miss this. Smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and hit subscribe so you never miss a Reds update. Liverpool make final Alexander Isak transfer stance clear as deal completed. The latest Liverpool transfer news as we take a look at some of the latest stories doing the rounds at Anfield. It's a Premier League match day for Liverpool as Arne Slot's side start their defense of their title tonight, Friday. They kick off the campaign with a home match against AFC Bournemouth, 8 p.m. kickoff. The game could see some players make their competitive debut for the Reds, but despite the club being active so far, there is expected to be more business between now and the end of the window, with the summer window in full swing. Speculation continues over potential incomings and outgoings, with Newcastle United striker Alexander Isak, a name who continues to dominate headlines. With that in mind, the Echo takes a look at some of the latest stories doing the rounds at Anfield. Alexander Isak stance Liverpool will only return to the table with Newcastle United over a potential deal for Alexander Isak if they believe that a deal will be done, according to journalist Ben Jacobs. The Reds saw a bid of around $110 million turned down by the Magpies earlier in the summer and are not planning to return with another bid unless Newcastle's stance softens. Speaking on the Born and Red podcast, Jacobs said, Liverpool, if they're back, in talks with Newcastle, are only coming to collect Alexander Isak. They're not coming to be speculative. They're not coming for a back and forth. Liverpool are only going to come back to the table if they know that this Isak is happening. If there is a development club to club, I think Liverpool fans can get very excited very quickly. Midfielder deal confirmed. It has been confirmed that young midfielder Lucas Stevenson has signed a new deal with Liverpool before rejoining Scottish Premiership side Dundee United on loan. The 21-year-old spent last season on loan with the Scottish club, winning the Young Player of the Season award. He made 34 appearances, scoring 3 goals. Responding to the transfer, Dundee boss Jim Goodwin said, "We're absolutely thrilled to welcome Luca back to Tannadice. He made a tremendous impact last season, not just in terms of performances, but in the mentality and energy he brought to the group every single day. Even when he was struggling physically, he gave everything for the badge. That tells you all you need to know about his character. Luca's return was a priority for us this window. He brings something unique in terms of his leadership, versatility, and understanding of how we want to play." Arne Slot sets Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi target for Liverpool star Florian Wirtz. Arne Slot casually dropped in the names of Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Mo Salah when talking about Liverpool signing Florian Wirtz's potential. Arne Slot knows Florian Wirtz has the ability, but he has laid down the challenge to the Liverpool new boy to show his robustness to reach the very top. The Reds boss casually dropped in the names of Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Mo Salah when talking about the 116-number man's potential. But it wasn't any particular skill set of those 3 greats of the game that Slot was highlighting. It was their availability. The more games you are fit for, the more games you can make a big impression in, was the message ahead of life in English football. As the former Bayer Leverkusen attacking midfielder Wirtz prepares to begin his Premier League career on Friday night against Bournemouth, Slot offered his view on what he needs to do to fulfill his potential. "Everything we expect is very positive, but between expecting and realizing something is different," said Slot. "Why is Messi and Ronaldo and Mo, why are they so highly regarded? Because they are always fit. Every single game they are fit, and that is something that Florian first has to show in a league like ours. If he is able to stay fit, then our fans will see great moments. If Wirtz gets anywhere near the regard Salah is held on Merseyside, then he will have fulfilled his potential. But In a summer of change for Liverpool with over 300 millers spent and more to come while nearly 200 millers coming in from transfers out, Salah will find differences in the way the team will play. Not least, the absence of Trent Alexander-Arnold, who he played 70% of his games in a red shirt with bringing his total tally of goals to 245 and counting. On Friday night, he will have Jeremy Frimpong behind him, and, when he is fit, it could be Connor Bradley. Salah seemed a bit isolated in Liverpool's defeat on penalties against Crystal Palace last week, as he struggled to impact the game, but Slot is not concerned by that. "No, the last time we were at Wembley, he didn't play his best game as well," said Slot, referencing the Carabao Cup final defeat by Newcastle last season. By the way, Trent wasn't playing behind them then, it was Jarell Quansah. But even players like Mo can have a game where they maybe don't play how we expect them to play. The good thing for us is that it hardly ever happens. He is 9 out of 10 times the best version of himself, and sometimes it is also the quality of the opponent or the playing style of the opponent that makes it really difficult for him. Slot cited Palace's low block and directness from open play posing. Problems for Liverpool. It is why he has tried to evolve the team this summer, as well as players wanting to move on. The 4 reasons why Liverpool won't sign Alexander Isak from Newcastle this summer. Liverpool has been heavily linked with a money-spinning move for Alexander Isak. But all signs now point to no summer deal, with Newcastle strongly placed to hold firm. Liverpool has not been short of transfer excitement this summer. Even with the deals completed already, including a potential British record move for Florian Wirtz, it has been a far more eventful off-season than usual at Anfield. But current discussion understandably revolves around Alexander Isak. Anticipation has grown at Anfield as the prospects of a deal moved from fanciful to plausible, with Richard Hughes even getting as far as submitting a bid. This is not the kind of move that Liverpool makes, and yet the will to complete a transfer is quite clearly there. But while the Reds are not lacking in either ambition or desire, I have always struggled to see how a move might come to fruition. Now more than ever, there are numerous reasons why a transfer will not happen. Some of those relate to Newcastle's abject failure to get suitable, or indeed any, replacements through the door, notably including a humiliating Benjamin Sesko fiasco. But in truth, the odds have been stacked against an agreement from the outset. Newcastle holds all the cards in many ways. The whole saga boils down to the contract situation. It's clear that Isak wants the move to Liverpool, but regardless of what he and his agent throw at the issue, the inescapable fact is that he remains contracted to Newcastle for another 3 years. Usually, a player's best leverage in the transfer market is the threat of ultimately walking away for nothing. Even with near-limitless Saudi backing, Newcastle would be hugely reluctant to let that happen with Isak, given that cashing in for even a fraction of his value would ease PSR concerns for years to come. But that threat holds no water for Isak, just yet. Newcastle knows that it could keep him for another year, perhaps longer, and still net a significant transfer fee for his services. This has been a major stumbling block from the very start. Fundamentally, it is hard to find a compelling financial or sporting motivation for Newcastle to sell Isak. Isak's strike threats not credible. Isak's only remaining recourse is to effectively threaten to go on strike. He has essentially done just that, intimating that he will not play for the club again, even if a transfer is not arranged. But it has to be said that this is a pretty obvious bluff. Does anyone genuinely believe that Isak, if denied a transfer, will just opt to sit on the sidelines for an absolute minimum of 4 months and perhaps even longer? The very reason he wants a transfer, as Eddie Howe has admitted, is that a footballer's career is short. Too short, you would have thought, to opt out of half a season when Premier League and Champions League minutes are on offer. Eddie Howe drops huge Alexander Isak transfer hint, and it's good news for Liverpool. Alexander Isak's future remains unresolved as he pushes for a move to Liverpool and trains away from Newcastle United's first team squad ahead of their opening Premier League fixture. Newcastle are being forced to confront life without star striker Alexander Isak as they prepare to take on Aston Villa in the Premier League this weekend. Eddie Howe has acknowledged that his side will have to find a way without the Swede's services, which may prick the ears of those associated with Liverpool. Isak continues to train away from Newcastle's first-team squad as he attempts to push through a transfer to Arne Slot's side. The forward will be unavailable for the first match of the season on Saturday and appears to have no intention to represent Newcastle again. The 25-year-old missed the Magpies' preseason tour of Asia and spent time training at former club Real Sociedad's base. Liverpool have seen their efforts thus far, knocked back, and do not plan to return with another offer for Isak unless encouraged to do so. Isak has not yet given up on an exit, however, despite having 3 years remaining on his contract at St. James's Park. The forward could yet be fined over his continued absence in the coming days. Newcastle boss Howe has admitted the situation has disrupted his side. The ex-Bournemouth head coach conceded that Isak being unavailable leaves a significant hole in the squad. "I don't think it's been healthy for us," Howe said. "I don't deny that's been a big challenge. Alex, for me, is one of the best strikers in the world, if not the best. To miss him from your squad leaves a huge gap. I think morale was certainly affected early on during preseason," he added. "There was nothing I could do to affect that. It was always going to be there. When you have a player that good who is not part of your group, it's difficult for the players to fully understand it and to know what's going on and how to react. But as time has gone on, there has been an acceptance, this is the squad, and we have got to make the best of the situation. That's always been my train of thought. Whatever situation you're in, you have got to find a way, and you can only control what you can control. We have moved forward, and I've got to say the atmosphere of the group has been very good in the last couple of weeks. Liverpool transfer patience has paid off in a big way as Marc Guehi interest continues. Liverpool are closing in on 2 center-backs in the form of Crystal Palace captain Marc Guehi and Parma teenager Giovanni Leone. To paraphrase the age-old saying about public transport in the capital, you wait all summer for a center-back and then 2 come along at once. That's likely how Liverpool feel just now, having made progress on both Crystal Palace captain Marc Guehi and, more pertinently, Parma teenager Giovanni Leone this week. In the case of England international Guéhi, the Echo reported back in June that a late move might be in the offing once Palace had reduced the asking price for a player who had made it clear a new contract would not be signed at Selhurst Park. Having turned down as many as 4 offers between 60-65 meter from Newcastle last year, the FA Cup holders entered the summer months in a somewhat bullish mood over Guéhi and were determined not to lose him for a fee that was far below his level of talent. But as the window has edged closer to its September 1st deadline, and Guéhi made it clear a new deal was not on the cards, coupled with 40-meter target Ousmane Diomande so far remaining at Portuguese side Sporting, it has become apparent for Palace that a sale would be in their best interests. That, perhaps, explains part of the reason why Palace chairman Steve Parish was fronting up in the Wembley mixed zone on Sunday after the FA Cup winners had beaten the Premier League holders in the Community Shield on penalties. Oliver Glasner, according to reports from those closely connected to the club, would prefer to keep Guéhi for the season ahead as they gear up for a first-ever campaign in the Europa Conference League. Monday's outcome of Palace's appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport over their Europa League expulsion was probably the most likely reason for Parish's emergence in the Wembley bowels. But his update on the futures of both Guéhi and Eberechi, Eze, did little to reassure supporters hoping to see both stay. Yes, of course, for players of that caliber to leave on a free, it is a problem for a football club, Parish said. There is no doubt about it, unfortunately. Joachim Andersen went last summer to Fulham, and we couldn't afford to lose both of them. We then had another bid in January, but that was a difficult situation as well. We will just have to see what happens. It needs a new contract or a conclusion of some kind. In the end, people trade players. That is what football clubs do. Of course, if you don't care about tomorrow ever and put it all off, then we are a fantastic team. If we had 4 more players, I don't know what we could achieve. Unfortunately, it is not always as simple as that. We have got a lot of outgoings this year because we are paying a lot of transfer fees for players that we have already got.